All right. So today we're going to be joined by some really wonderful guests and colleagues from around the region and also from right here at Cal State San Bernardino to talk a little bit about the process of teaching history or related subjects at the community college level. How you guys can best, students can best position themselves in order to get this type of work. What kind of things you should know as you embark on it, what kind of preparation you can do, taking a little bit of the mystery out of what you can expect in this kind of work and heading toward this kind of work. I know I can see from our list of attendees that we have a combination of undergraduate and graduate students in the new MA program here at Cal State. So I want to welcome everybody. I want to thank everybody for joining us. I am recording the session, as I said, and we'll share this after the fact. So please bear that in mind as we go forward. I want to thank our experts, and then I'm going to get out of the way as quickly as possible. And Jim Hill. Jim and Peg Hill are great friends of the CSUSB History Department. They've been involved in many, many events that we've had, both experts and veterans in the field of especially history education at all levels, really, at all levels. I recently looked at my 6-year-old's history book, social studies book, in his first grade social studies book, and recognized Margaret Hill's name. Yep. So really at every level of history education in the region, Jim and Peg are involved, and we are very lucky for that. Christina Yamanaka is in from Mount San Jacinto College. She's also history faculty there, and I want to thank Christina for joining us. Oceana Collins is a graduate of CSUSB, the history program, and she now teaches at College of the Desert. So really fortunate to just here for the first time meet both Christina and Oceana, and thank you both for joining us. As I was saying earlier, the only thing I bring to these programs is a willingness to impose on friends old and friends new, and ask you to share your wisdom and your experience with our students. So thank you so much for joining us. Michael Karp, a familiar face to a lot of you guys here in the Cal State San Bernardino History Department, is a relatively new addition to our history department at Cal State. And Michelle Lorimer, another familiar face to our history folks here at CSUSB, and like Jim and Peg Hill, deeply involved in the field of history education all around the region. Now, if there's anybody who's logged in on a different name or a different ID, and I'm not recognizing you as one of our guest panelists, please, Herb, is that right, Herb?
Yeah, it's Herb Alarcon, and I'm the co-chair with Christina on San Jacinto Campus of MSJC.
Excellent, excellent. Also from Mount San Jacinto. Thank you so much for joining us. And I see a few others who are going to have some great insights, including our MA students, some of whom are already gaining teaching experience. Rocio is in from UCR. She's on the PhD program over there. Byron Williams, I recognize, a graduate of the Cal Poly Pomona History MA program, was impatiently waiting for our History MA program to start here at Cal State. But it didn't start in time, so he went and got his MA over at Cal Poly as we were just getting underway here. Lots of undergrads, lots of MA students. Am I missing anybody who is going to share their wisdom, their perspective? Christina?
We have Lindsay Weiler as well as Mayela Caro, who are both associate faculty at Mount San Jacinto College.
Great, great. Okay, thank you so much, Lindsay and Mayela. Thank you for joining us. I am now going to open up the floor. We haven't really choreographed this in a serious way, so I'm going to open the floor to basically the open prompt of what do you wish you had known as an undergraduate or as an MA student about getting work in this kind of a context. Christina, can I ask you to first give your thoughts on this? And again, it can be by way of quick self-introduction, or you can get right into what you think is sort of the content and the meat of this discussion.
Well, thank you again for the opportunity of coming and sharing some of our own personal experiences. I think this is a great forum. I wish I would have participated in one as an undergraduate or even a graduate student. And I think one thing I would just share is that it's okay not to know exactly what you want to do yet. If you're an undergraduate with a history major, there's so many awesome opportunities of what you can do. And whether it be going into academia, going into the professional field, and if you're not entirely certain, I think that's pretty normal. I took a year off before I went on to graduate school. That was really important for me to be able to see that I really wanted to go back to school and to continue my learning. So that was, I think, a really important step. And also, I think that I didn't necessarily ever imagine myself being a teacher. I actually was painfully shy, and it wasn't until I became a history major, when I had to start talking and participating in seminars as an undergraduate, that I started to gain that confidence in myself that I could hold forth in front of a group of students and present on content that I was so passionate about. So I think, it's something that we may not necessarily know 100% that it's what we want to do. And so it's great to come to these types of things to start seeing what sort of opportunities are there and to try to take advantage. I wish I'd known earlier that maybe if I'd TA'd or if I had tutored or if I had taken up those opportunities, I would have maybe had that realization sooner. So I think giving yourself those chances, whether it's informally or more formally through your institution, to see if being in front of a group of students is really your cup of tea. And I think the other thing is to really expand out. I wish I had known earlier to really take a wide wealth of courses in areas that we are less comfortable in, that we know nothing about. We sometimes feel very, I think, secure in a particular area of history, but as a teacher at a community college, you're going to have to teach the gamut of courses. And those could be survey courses, and then eventually you may be invited to teach more specialty courses. So every class that you take as an undergraduate and as a graduate student, even facilitating discussion sections as a TA, can come and play an important role as a teacher down the road. So I wish I had kind of reflected on those things earlier, but I guess the biggest thing is not knowing is okay, and you'll get there.
Thanks, Christina. And I'm just going to open it to whoever wants to hop on and either continue with some of these ideas or introduce something new, because I know we have a great brain trust to draw on. So whoever wants to jump in, go ahead, Herb, please.
Just to kind of piggyback off of what Christina said, one of the most important things I found in order to land a job, I got to land a job at the school I wanted, at the campus I wanted, and that was because I networked. Many of us, especially as historians, are kind of little introverted. We like our books, we like our quiet, and that doesn't help us get a job. What helps us get a job is contacting, and being in touch and getting to know all of the instructors in the program, not just the classes you're taking. Some of the best conversations I've ever had were with teachers I've never taken. But they were giving me a fresh insight that I, didn't get from those instructors that I did have. And, ended up getting great references from people. I was in, part of the SI program here at MSJC for the entire time I was in school. So even once I left the community college, I stayed working at the community college so that when I asked for a job or, applied, people knew me, and not just knew me, but knew what I could do because I reached out. And so I find so many students, especially us history majors, that we're introverted. We tend to not be the one that go up and talk to the teacher. And to be honest with you, I think my networking got me the job much more than my ability as a historian. I think I'm a good historian, but that's self-crediting or whatever. But I do know that I knew every single person on my hiring committee, and that was huge. So I definitely suggest get yourself out there, connect with people, other students, because sometimes Mayela and I went to school together at San Marcos. I happened to be able to get a job before her, and I was able to help her. I'm not sure if I helped her, but at least, she knew somebody when she applied. And I think that made her more confident, and we hired her. So that networking, not just with the instructors, but with fellow students, is super important. You don't know who the next Bill Gates or the next Eric Foner is, you know, sitting in your classes. So anyway, I've rambled on. I apologize.
That's excellent. Thank you, Herb. And I remember Jim had mentioned this in the past for teachers as well. Lindsay, please jump in.
Hello, everyone. LindsayweilerLeone. I teach not only as associate faculty adjunct. I teach not only at MSJC, but also at RCC and Crafton Hills College in Yucaipa. And I kind of want to actually connect what both Christina and Herb was saying in a way, because my undergraduate days are not, or my graduate days, my undergraduate days are a little farther gone. But my graduate days, I graduated with a master's in history, focusing on European history with a minor emphasis in Persian studies from Cal State Fullerton. And I did what Christina said, you know, take a lot of classes, take a variety of classes of things that you might be interested in on the periphery, but aren't quite sure necessarily how to connect it to history. And that's okay. It can still work in. Like, I teach world history courses because of my experience with Middle Eastern history and European history and Asian history, East Asian history. And these were classes that I took, and people that I talked to, and that gets into that networking side. Also, one of the best suggestions that was given to me by my mentor at Fullerton, who was the chair of my thesis committee, was definitely what Christina said. Know that you want to get in front of students and teach before you do that. There are so many other things you can do with a history degree. I talk to people in the State Department. I talk to people with the FBI and CIA because of my Persian studies background. I mean, there are a variety of things you can do with a history degree. It does not necessarily have to be teaching, but if you want to teach, know that that's what you want to do, because it can get tough. Teaching is not for everybody, and that's okay. Just, you know, that's what you're in undergraduate. That's what you're in the graduate school to figure out. Is, do you want to teach? Do you want to go public and oral history? Do you want to work at a museum or in an archive somewhere? So there you go for those introverts, buried with nothing but research. So that's really key, to know that teaching is the direction that you want to go, because it presents, I mean, every career is going to present its own unique set of challenges, but this one in particular really can. And when you're first starting out, understand that you're not going to necessarily get a full-time job right out of the gate. You are going to spend some years learning how to teach, refining your craft, adjuncting. Participate in as many things as you can when you do. Participate in as many things as you can when you do. I'm a member of several committees. I work with Academic Senate in 2 places. In fact, I'm helping the Academic Senate at MSJC rewrite their constitution. I'm on the constitutional revision team there. And I work with the Academic Senate at the state level too, as well as the Faculty Association of California Community Colleges. Get involved, because that's going to kind of tie into that networking thing, where you are going to then be able to reach out to people in a multitude of ways. And you'll be amazed at the people that you talk to, and the conversations that you have, and the things that come up. And even though I don't have a full-time position yet, fingers crossed, that I think has a lot less to do with me and what I'm doing and where I want to go, and more with just what's happening, the atmosphere surrounding hiring and education and the pandemic and everything like that. So don't worry if you decide that teaching is the route you want to go, if teaching at a community college is the route that you want to go. Don't worry if you're not getting the job you want necessarily right out of the gate or getting the full-time position. Start networking, start looking at those colleges that you want to work at and that are local. Figure out how far you want to drive. This was another thing that was brought up. Where you are, draw a circle or on a map around that and figure out how far you want to drive, because that also will help determine too where you can go work. We have a variety of institutions, a variety of places at the community college level, and it's fabulous to work there. It is going to take a little bit of effort.
That's great. Thank you, Lindsay. Oceana, I saw you raise your hand. Please keep us moving.
Hi, well, yes, I want to say thank you so much for this opportunity. And I think everything that's been said so far is just so right on. So I'm full-time faculty here at College of the Desert, and I was hired in 2015, so relatively new. And before that, I was adjunct faculty. You know, part of that is really like Lindsay was saying, you know, I spent a lot of time very much dedicated to the college, going to different committees and things like that. But like Christina was saying, I actually didn't know that I wanted to teach until I got into graduate school and actually stood for the first time in front of students and realized how passionate I was about the subject and also being able to communicate that passion. One of the things that I want to say is because I talk to a lot of history majors, and there's this sort of anxiety around like not knowing everything about history, you know, like, and being afraid that, you know, somehow, you know, you have to, before you stand up in front of people and teach or whatever, you have to know like every single thing, you know, or what if somebody asks me something that I don't know? And I just want to say it's okay not to know everything about history, because it's pretty much impossible to know everything about history. And, you know, and a lot of the knowledge just comes with experience. And if you decide to go into teaching, you know, obviously some of the most solid knowledge that you could have is through communicating, you know, information to other people. So the more that you know, communicate your stories and, you know, communicate through teaching, it really solidifies that knowledge. So coming right out of graduate school, you know, or even the bachelor's, you know, you might feel like, oh my gosh, like I don't know enough. But again, it's layers and it's exposure, it's communication. Certainly networking is definitely the key. I want to dovetail on that idea as well. It's, you know, going out and talking to your colleagues, and not just colleagues within the discipline that you're interested in, or students within the discipline that you're interested in, but also just everybody in the campus community, you know, really expressing and showing yourself to be interested and caring about the community as a whole. And I think that that's also really important. And, you know, and that'll show, you know, if you care about that kind of thing. So thank you.
Thanks, Oceana. And then Herb in just a second. And then Jim, did you want to weigh in? And then also I'd like to hear from Michael and Michelle and Mayela. I'll invite you guys to join. I won't put anybody on the spot, but I just want to, that point by Oceana, we've mentioned before in our future history teachers information panels. This is such an important thing. The sooner you get past this idea, the better, that you have to know everything. And that sort of flop, sweat, anxiety dream moment that I think a lot of people who are on the verge of being teachers feel is, it's so important to get over that. How great it would be to have students who know more about a certain aspect of the subject than I do. That's exciting. Then I said, well, what are you going to bring to the class? How are you going to bring it? That's exciting. And I think moving past that sort of anxiety is so important that Oceana brings this up. You don't have to surround every student's knowledge of something. That is that idea it makes me anxious just thinking about knowing all that stuff, having all in my mind. Herb, and then some more of our guests can hop in. Herb, and then Jim, please.
Well, I was just going to jump off of what she was saying as far as if you're nervous, if you think you want to teach but you're nervous and you're not sure you have the skills, just think back on things that you've done in your life. I mean, I think I took to instructing well because my dad was a judo instructor, and I literally was helping people learn judo from the time I was 5 or 6. And to be honest with you, there's no difference in helping somebody learn how to type, how to, or any skill as it is to teaching them to learn, history. And so every one of us has a skill set that we just don't even recognize as usable for teaching. And I think that, again, if you're nervous, just kind of look at yourself in a holistic way. And I think you'll find that if you even think you want to teach, you more than likely are going to be a good teacher. It's just finding those skills in yourself. So thanks for letting me talk again.
Okay, Jeremy, I would like to throw a different perspective here from my background, which was 35 years as a high school teacher of history at 3 different high schools, and as an adjunct at 2 community colleges, Chaffey and Rio Hondo, and also as an adjunct at Cal Poly Pomona in history for a while before I came to Cal State, to the College of Education. And my point is that looking at the kids or adults who are going to be the students that community college teachers have, there's a whole bunch of things I think to think about. One is that, standing back and getting the big picture, there's 116 community colleges in California. And when you look up the statistics, about 25% of the students of those colleges will actually go on and graduate from a 4-year school in 6 years after they start their freshman year. And that number, that percentage varies a lot from community college to community college. So depending on what community college you're at, your student population mix is going to be quite different from some other places. You will have a large number of kids, I say kids deliberately, especially in daytime classes for the most part, who are fresh out of high school. They're not sure what they want to do. You will have a handful of those who will have relatively strong academic background, who will have language skills, language proficiency, having had experience going to museums, maybe international travel, that sort of thing. Those are the kids who, generally speaking, are going to do well in your classes right off the top. Then you will have also kids who have not had that kind of experience background, who your job, in my opinion, is going to be to help give them as much as you can of those experiences to broaden their background so that they are able to move forward in their academic work. You're also going to have a lot of kids who do not have the academic skills, say of paper writing, of developing a thesis, of knowing how to search for and find and vet evidence to support their points of view in argument. And so you'll have some kids who have that. You'll have a lot of kids who don't have that. And again, your job is going to be, in my opinion, to help give them those skills. And I found in high school, it was better to assume they didn't have any of those skills, period, start from scratch, bang, day one. Then you're going to also have a lot of adults, more focused, I think, in my experience anyway, in evening classes. You'll have those people who are coming back for one reason or another. Quite often, you'll have lots of students who don't plan on graduating. They're there for a certificate. They're of some sort. They're in your class because they have to be. They'd rather not be. Again, your job is going to be to try to interest them and show them that what you have to offer does connect to their lives in ways that they don't realize. So when you look at your student population and you start looking at different community colleges that you're interested in, I would really check out some of those graduation rates because they vary. When I was looking it up this morning, De Anza Community College in Cupertino, 61% of the of the students starting there complete a 4-year college degree in 6 years after they start. Barstow Community College, that number is 9%. And they vary that much all the way across the board. And so each community college, I think, will have a distinct personality mix of who goes there and who teaches there. And anyway, that's my perspective on who are the kids you're going to be looking at when you're standing in front of them, having gotten used to the idea that, yes, I don't have all the answers and I don't know everything. And heck, it's often fun, in fact, when they ask you, how do you know this stuff? You say, oh, I just make it up as I go. But those kinds of things will help you, I think, be the effective kind of teacher you want to be. Okay.
Thank you, Jim. Absolutely. I really like that point as well. The importance of the pedagogy, and some of our other guests and the future history teachers. I think Alex Ponce always brings this up in his comment about the importance of teaching students and not just teaching content. And I think that's important at every level, but especially when you need this really effectively scaffolded, structured learning environment. That's at all levels, but I definitely find that in the classroom as well, how important that is. Oceana, go ahead, and then if I don't want to put Michelle and Mayela and Michael on the spot, but I also want to welcome you guys to hop in the conversation.
Yeah, sorry, I just wanted to add just one quick thing, which is that, one of the cool things about being a community college teacher is that you have that opportunity, a student that is just coming into college, and you have an opportunity to really get them excited about your discipline. And so, not only do we teach, history majors, but we make history majors, at the community college level to some degree. And so, so I just wanted to say that. So it's one of the benefits, I think, of teaching at the community college level.
I want to jump in because I just had a student in our introductory posts on Canvas, to students introducing themselves, and said, why are you taking this class? What do you hope to get out of it? Or maybe why do you love this subject? And Professor Yamanaka got a shout out from one of my students, said, I took her class and then I knew I got to take this one because I'm teaching East Asian history. And the student said, I took this class and I saw there was another class on this subject. So I know I had to get it. So I know, and I've seen, the other side of it from the student level at a community college, and knowing how essential that encounter is for students. It's formative. Absolutely. Michael, jump in.
Yeah, I was just gonna a similar kind of story. Oceana is one of those instructors that does it. I've actually had dozens of our students at Cal State say that Oceana's teaching was so inspiring. That's what made them want to become history majors. So you can have a major impact on students, and also too, most of them wanting to become history instructors themselves, either at K-12 or community colleges, because they loved her classes so much. And if you think about the impact of that, even on one individual, but then, however many different students have gone through her classes, that's pretty awesome. And then I would really kind of echo what everybody has said. And lots of the folks that have spoken have much more experience and knowledge about what we're talking about today, community college and all that stuff. I had the pleasure of working with Oceana at COD for about 2.5 years. I was at Moreno Valley College. But then like Jim, I also have been in K-12. I've taught middle school humanities, I've taught high school. And I actually kind of wanted to riff off a bit of what Jim was saying in terms of things that I kind of wish I would have known and kind of worked out for me accidentally. Is that when I finished up grad school, I started teaching high school, and I had been a substitute teacher for a few years. So then taught high school and middle school, and getting really involved with K-12 teaching, the kind of scholarship on teaching and learning and pedagogy and how you teach, historical thinking skills, critical thinking and analysis, like people have been talking about in the chat, was so fundamentally huge for me in terms of what successes I've been able to have in the classroom as a community college instructor. And I would actually say all the way up through, our graduating seniors at Cal State, getting involved and learning a little bit about that scholarship and how to teach history can go a long way in terms of giving you those tools in the classroom, especially if you are, having that kind of feeling like some people have talked about too, like, I don't know everything, how am I going to teach it? Well, the scholarship on teaching and learning is actually kind of really moving away from, we don't even really actually want to focus on people knowing everything. We want people to have skills when they leave classrooms so that they can go locate information and verify its credibility and so on. So if you structure your courses around that, you take that weight off your shoulders as well. So I think, digging around and that kind of stuff and the resources that are available in that regard can be really helpful. And I'd also say, just like others have said, if you're thinking about teaching, getting into a classroom in any capacity can go a long ways in terms of showing you what it's like. So I know next week we're going to be talking about substitute teaching, another one of these types of workshops. That's an option. It definitely can be a great crash course in what is it like to be in a room with a bunch of teenagers and how to handle that. It's a really valuable experience for sure. Or TAing if you're in grad school. That was really kind of my first time in a classroom and really showed me like, yes, I do like this a lot. So anyway, getting in there is great. And then also too, like other people have said, that at the community college level, well, really any level, but getting that experience of going to department meetings, getting to know the faculty and other adjuncts, and making friends with other adjuncts too can go a long way if you're kind of in that same world of, maybe looking for that full-time position and helping each other out with cover letters and things like that, is really fantastic. And then getting involved on college committees, understanding how college governance works, what committees work on and how they handle these different things. You can learn a lot doing that as well. I know that I did in my time at COD and other places. So yeah, I think that's all for me for now. Thanks.
Thanks, Michael. I'll throw something out because we're about halfway done with the session. It went quickly. I feel like we've just been here for a few minutes because this is such a lively and a useful conversation. I've made a couple notes just now because I want to kind of back up a little bit for anybody for whom this is a total sort of mystery. I want to ask a little bit, and this might be for Christina, but also maybe for Oceana and Lindsay and for Mayela, but what that application, and for Herb, what that application looks like, the mechanics of what you need. Is it basically applying in terms of a full application package that we might think of as an academic package that includes a CV, letters from faculty, some kind of statement of philosophy of teaching, a writing sample, those kind of things? Or is it basically submitting a CV to be held in a kind of batch of CVs by a department chair, so that that would mean to our students, that would mean making sure you have a very sharp CV and very current, very up-to-date CV. Should you also have contacts with faculty, or should you have letters, or should you have very, very current letters, so that if somebody says, oh, maybe we'll hire you, we just need letters, statements of purpose, some kind of pedagogy statement or philosophy of teaching, a writing sample? What actually does that application process look like? And I asked this completely earnestly. I actually don't know. And also, is there a cycle for this kind of hiring process? Or again, and this is sort of an important question that may depend on different department, do you submit a CV and say, please hold my CV if something comes up? Hopefully my CV will be in the running for people that you would reach out to. I know this would depend on tenure track or adjunct positions, but that's sort of an open question that I wanted to kind of backtrack a little bit to the mechanics. And I saw Herb, you had your hand up, and also Lindsay, and Christina, whoever wants to jump in on this. Thanks.
If it's cool if I start real quick. So you basically are going to have two different experiences as a part-time or associate faculty or adjunct faculty and as an associate faculty. So for us at MSJC, and I think most community colleges use Neoad, which is a state-run community college HR program, basically. And for us, a full CV, letters of recommendation, transcripts, all of that stuff is pretty much required to become part of our pool. And then our HR goes through minimum qualifications, and anybody that meets those minimum qualifications then goes into a pool. And Michelle Lorimer, benefited from floating in that because Christina and I got asked to add several classes halfway through the semester last semester as late start classes. And literally I went into NeoGov, looked at every single application, and hers stood out, and she got a call and she accepted. And now we actually asked her for a couple of classes this semester, and I'm not sure it all worked out because of enrollments, but literally that's how easy / hard it is to get a job. Because I got to tell you right now, it's a waiting game. I am probably the luckiest person in education because as I graduated, after several years of declining, we expanded our schedule. So it allowed me to get in as a part-timer and allowed me to get 3 classes. And then literally after like my 3rd year, I lucked out and we were able to get a full-time position added to the college, and then I was able to obtain that position. But it was because I was hanging out, you know what I mean? And Michelle, you know, she put her and I'm sure Lindsay too probably was in the pool for a little bit before she got the call. So it's not quick. And then when you go full-time, it's a year before you get hired. You know, from the first time you put in your application to you get your interviews and you talk to the administration, it's almost a full year from the time I applied till I was given the position. And then I had to wait freaking 4 months before I got to teach. You know what I mean? By the time that I got hired, and then, you know, the semester that I got to start happened. So it really is a patience game. And like you said, keep that CV as updated as possible. And what's really important now, and it was said earlier, is not so much you knowing everything about the field you're in, but being able to help people learn the skills they need to become a good historian or a good researcher. Because I think a lot of us kind of think history is going to be what we do when we get a history degree. But to be honest, probably more historians get jobs as data researchers in, you know, big corporations than anything else, because we're really good at looking up stuff. You know, and so, but if you do want to teach, it's a waiting game, and there is a lot to it, and you really have to make sure you read the application very closely and give them everything they want. Don't think, well, I have this, and so that will work for this, right? If they see you need transcripts from all of your schools, do not cheese, freaking hunt down your elementary school transcript if you can. You know what I mean? And really answer the questions on the application, because I know a lot of people don't get, you know, like an interview because they misunderstand a question on an application. And it's just like, well, if this person isn't going to even be able to answer the question on the original application, I don't need to interview. And I know that sounds harsh and jerky, but there's not a lot of these jobs, and we really have to be kind of, you know, careful in who we hire, because we're hiring them for the rest of their lives in a tenure track position like at Mount San Jacinto. So they literally hired this dude for the rest of my life, basically. And so it took a lot to do, but at the same time, it's not overwhelming. It's not anything harder than you've done in grad school. I guarantee you it's probably an easier deal. It's just, it takes a little longer to get the results or to get the answers you want. But anything you've done in grad school is just as hard as any kind of thing you'll have to fill out on an application. So just in my opinion, if you graduate, you're already halfway to getting that job. So anyway, again,
Thanks.
I rambled.
No, that was great, Herb. And Michael, I just made you co-host because my connection's spotty. I had a quick follow-up. You said NeoGov and NeoEd. Are those two separate platforms, and should students have their applications on both? And then a follow-up question, this is for anybody. where are job openings being placed? So I assume there's two things, and Lindsay, you got your hand up, so I'll go right to you on that one. But I assume job postings are going to be for full-time track positions, but again, I don't even know enough to ask the right question. So Lindsay, please take it away.
Thank you. Because I'm still actively working in the searching area. One of the best places, if you're looking specifically at community colleges, is through the California Community Colleges website. Yeah. There is one big depository where most of the jobs, whether they are in, whether they are part of NeoGov, whether they are, whether you can find them on their own internal job postings, whatever, they tend to go through the CCC registry. There is a registry. It is on the Chancellor's Office website. It is one of the best ways to find jobs, and you can set up a job search the same you would as if you were on Indeed or at any of the other job search sites. I have talked to a few of my students who have been interested in moving into history classes and told them, because of course I'm speaking to them at the community college level, telling them what they're going to need to move on from there. Excuse me, but one of the big things is you're not necessarily going to be searching for positions, whether they're full-time or adjunct, on a site like Indeed. I have a LinkedIn page, which has been great, but I don't necessarily go to Indeed. There's a few other resources. There's the Chronicle of Higher Education. There is Inside Higher Ed. There is higheredjobs.com. There are a number of websites out there that are dedicated specifically to higher education positions. I even have it set up, I think it's through the Chronicle of Higher Education, that I have diversity and inclusive jobs that stand out for diversity and inclusiveness. And it's organized by type or by division, health, fine arts, liberal arts, etc. But really, for me, the big one is go to the state level. The state has a lot of resources for you. You are going to need a CV. If you are if you're coming out of graduate school and you're looking for that first teaching job, some places will offer teaching internships where you can go in and learn. If you didn't do any, I would suggest doing GA and TA work, graduate assistant, teaching assistant work, because that allowed me to put on my CV that I had actually taught. It wasn't a lot, but I had taught. And I had taught online too. In fact, that's when it came to my job at MSJC, it was the fact that I had reached out to Christina as the chair. She was the only chair at that point. Herb had not co-chaired with her at that point. But I reached out to her and said, hey, I just applied. You can do this for adjuncting for the part-time. You cannot do this for the full-time. But for the part-time, I've reached out to the chair of the history department. If it's a dean who oversees the history department, gone, hey, I applied for this part-time position. I'm very interested. And like 2 weeks later, I got an email from Christina going, we had somebody who wasn't able to teach this class, and it's an online course. Are you able to teach online? And I was able to say that I could, because I had, as a graduate student, taught online and was teaching online at another school at Crafton Hills. So in that, make sure that you're emphasizing what skills that you can, and make sure your CV's up to date. Look again at the state level. Very quickly, I'll say this. There are some fabulous webinars and resources at the state level for how to get these jobs. I have participated in a number of webinars, and they're great networking opportunities too, for how to get these jobs and what all you'll need, and going through the steps. And I've had my CV reviewed. I had my CV reviewed by the president of the Academic Senate for California Community Colleges. So, I mean, you don't know who's going to be out there, but use the resources that you can. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsay. And then, sorry, Christina, just a second. Lindsay, where did you find those webinars, seminars? Was that through the California Community College's website?
That's one place you can find them. You can also find them through the Academic Senate of California Community Colleges.
Okay.
Which is asccc.org.edu. I don't remember what the handle is on that.
Academic.
Also, there is the Faculty Association for California Community Colleges, FACCC, and those will also have opportunities. They will have webinars and seminars for geared towards part-time faculty. They just did one that was the transitioning from part-time faculty to full-time faculty.
Thank you. I'll share those links as well.
I would just add one other thing in terms of the timing. We are normally, like, for example, we're in January, but we just submitted our summer schedule. So kind of be anticipating building several months into, like, I want to teach for fall, I should be reaching out now. We're going to move into fall schedule development probably in the next month. We usually finalize it within a very short time frame. So kind of build that into your timeline. I would also suggest contacting the HR for the individual college that you would like to apply to. As Herb mentioned earlier, timing is everything. We get a call from our dean. We're expected to staff a class that same day that a course they just added. So if your application is already in our system through HR, it will make a world of difference because the person needs to be ready to go to be hired. So beyond just submitting, for example, your resume, your CV to us through email, that's a wonderful idea as a follow-up, but the first step is to actually get your full application in so you are ready to be hired in that moment, because that's how quickly these things move. We're very fluid. There's a lot of people out there who are looking for employment, and to be persistent, it's okay to follow up a few times, at different points and say, hey, I'm just checking in again. I sent you my email, my information before. And then I think the other thing is that we, for associate faculty, normally pair the submission of your application with an interview. And that will include kind of a discussion of your teaching philosophy. So be kind of reflective about why community college in particular. You could be teaching at a four-year institution that's more research focused. So why community college? We heard Jim speak to this earlier about the different sort of skill sets, the different variety of different backgrounds that people bring into a community college. So kind of thinking about why do you want to teach there? And what sort of is your view on issues of equity? Equity is huge right now at the community college level, not just philosophically, but also in practice. So what kind of professional development opportunities have you participated in? And in what way have you already started to kind of infuse that into your own, not only teaching philosophy, but the things that you're doing with students in your classes? I think those things are going to be important, as well as authenticity. Who are you and what is your authentic self? How are you going to be willing to share that with students? Because community colleges, we really emphasize student-centeredness. And so kind of thinking about in every question that you answer, whether it's an interview for a part-time position or an interview for a full-time position, where do students stand in your sort of view of how you're going to be able to really contribute to that college?
Thank you, Christina. Herb, please go ahead.
Yeah, I think also a willingness. Honestly, I didn't turn down anything that was ever offered to me. I literally had to ride my bicycle and a bus for like 45 minutes to take a class that was offered to me because I wanted to work. And in our experience in the last few years, we've had a few of our adjunct who have refused classes, like, oh, I can't do it at this time or whatever. And as terrible and horrible as it sounds, they don't get offered classes. And Michelle, on it, we offered her a class like with less than a week to prep. And I think we ended up offering you 2 classes by the time we were done with that week. And because she said that she was willing to do it and did that, she was offered classes without us even thinking about it this semester. And to be honest with you, us chairs, we got a lot on our plate. We tend to get lazy. We ask the same people over and over because we know they're, you know, they're good, they're, you know, and if they'll say yes and we can be done with this. And I know that sounds kind of weird and crappy, but that's academia. We are all just, you know, jumping from thing to thing. So if you can make it easy for me to hire you, I will hire you. You know, Mayela, same thing. I knew Mayela, I mentored her through the Sadiqa Fellowship program, which she put into the chat, which is great. You know, she was able to work and be mentored. And then again, after that experience, it was a no-brainer to put her on as a part-timer. And hopefully, you know, with everybody, that eventually those full-times come around. But honestly, if you turn down a class, you might not be thought of next time. And sometimes you have to because it just doesn't work out. But if you really want to get into this game, you really got to be willing to do what you know you kind of need to do and go where people ask you to go.
Thanks, Herb. And sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say those were some of the most stressful weeks of my life. It was a lot of work, but I have class at 1, so I just wanted to say a couple of quick things that I've taught at the CSU for I think 10 years now. I'm hitting my 10-year anniversary, but I find a lot of overlap between the students that we have at Cal State San Bernardino and the students that I've interacted with at MSJC. And I think really having, as Christina was saying, a student-centered approach helps a lot. And for those of you who've taken my teaching history classes, I mean, that's what really all of the content that we focus on is about. How do we center students? Of course, content is important, but really to make things relevant and provide life skills beyond whatever reason a person is there to, you know, I have students right now at MSJC who are trying to get into nursing programs, or they're doing, you know, ultrasound or sonogram technician programs. They're not focused on history, but how can we make this content relevant to them? How can they apply it to the world that they're living in today? And that still applies to many of the students that we have at CSUs, because most of the ones in the large lectures aren't also going to become history majors, but how can I apply critical thinking skills, historical literacy skills to a variety of content and just to browsing the internet? There's so many ways that you can find important connections between historical thinking and life skills. So that's one of the biggest, most important things that I found. And then I also, teaching at the community college level, I mean, I don't know, I have a PhD, so I think that opens up more doors for me to teach at a CSU. And I don't know what the requirements, I think at most community colleges, you can have a master's degree and apply. So those are some things for you all to think about as well. If you're not thinking about moving on to a PhD program, you want to stop at a master's degree, that you still have that flexibility to teach at a college level. But you know, some for CSUs or UCs, you need that extra PhD. I think those are the only things I was going to say. So I have to head off to class, but thank you for inviting me.
Sorry, we stressed you out.
It's okay. I enjoyed that level of stress for 2 weeks, and then I got it under control.
Thank you, Michelle. Absolutely. And that is kind of par for the course. And everybody knows at that sort of breaking into the field at the early level, you take, I think Herb said, and also Byron, or one of our grads said, you kind of make yourself indispensable. You say yes to everything and as much as you possibly can. We're nearing the top of the hour. Mayela, if you want to jump in with any thoughts, any reflections, I would love to hear from you. And then we can run a little bit long. I don't have a sort of hard deadline, although I also don't want to impose too much on our guests. But if we go 5 minutes over or something like that, that's okay. And if you need to drop out, please don't feel don't feel obliged to stay with us until we wrap up if we go a little bit long. Mayela, did you want to jump in with a few thoughts?
Yeah, sure. Thank you for giving me some space. Yeah, so I completely agree with everything that everyone said. I decided I wanted to join teaching as a TA in my PhD program at UCR. I was nervous about it because, as everyone's mentioned, you going in front of students and expecting to know everything. But that really cemented the fact that I wanted to be in the classroom. And then I'm also working as a curatorial assistant for the Smithsonian, and having both positions, working in the museum world and teaching in the classroom, has really cemented the fact that I belong in the classroom. That's where my true passion is. I enjoy my work at the Smithsonian. I love it. But long term, I want to be in the classroom. And but I think also it's helpful to show students that, if you have a degree in history, whether it's, at any level, there's different venues. You don't have to just be in a classroom. You can do museum work, public history work, as Herb said, data analysis and research. So I really enjoy working with students a lot. And as I mentioned, the way that I came into working here at Miss JC was, having the pleasure of being mentored by Herb in the Sadika program. And that program is excellent. And I highly recommend it because not only does it give you a foot at the door in whatever college you're interning at, but it also gives you tools on teaching and pedagogy, critical thinking skills that you can then, help your students with. And, we carry it over from our grad school days too. So yes, feel free to reach out if you have any questions on public history and museum work, on the Sadika program. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayela. This has been really terrific. I want to go on just for a few extra minutes, just to wrap up some loose ends, and also to give everybody an opportunity for any sort of lingering comments or thoughts or wrapping up ideas. A couple of things that I wanted to share, just to, if I can, for just a second, is something that as an undergrad, and this is back in New York, back at SUNY Albany, that the first class that I really loved, I remember starting to watch the instructor, and what the instructor was doing, and not just what the content was. And I think, and I remember thinking, I see what's going on here. I sort of see what the structure is. And I started making notes about that. I didn't do it as systematically as I would have now if I'd known where I was headed. And I should have done it a little more systematically. But I started at least to think about it. And to, as Mayela was saying, to sort of recognize that this is something that I think I could be a fit for. And I also want to know, so I want to know for everybody, and we note this in our future history information sessions, keep your notes, keep your books, unless you really need to sell them back. I would buy, $80 textbooks and they'd offer me $350 for them back. And, it's a racket. Don't sell your textbooks unless you have to. Keep them. Keep your notes. Keep comments from faculty. If it's on a Canvas website that you're going to lose, download it, pull it down, grab those notes, comments that you've gotten, because if you get the same comments 10 times from 10 faculty that you respect, maybe you should be thinking about, how to shift your perspective. So all those sort of things, keep all those materials. You'd be really, really glad you do, as Brittany says, and thanks Brittany again for helping to launch this all and make the connections. But invest in a bookshelf or two. Absolutely. Keep your materials, keep them in a systematic way. Try to be systematic and as early as possible, whether it's digitizing things or good file folders. Thanks, Fred. And I'm going to share this recording along with all the links and a lot of the links that Lindsay, who had to leave, shared with us. So I'm going to compile all those. I'll put them along with the video that we share so that you have all the links for these for the resources that have been mentioned. But I really want to urge our undergrads and our MA students to watch your faculty, watch what they're doing, not just for what's working, but for what's not working. What puts you to sleep and why? Not just because you're sleepy, but maybe it put you to sleep for some reason. Why did it do that? Why was some episode more exciting than another episode? You're not expected to like all history. I can't say that I do, right? It's fascinating if it's presented in an effective way, but But unless it's presented in a very engaging way, I'm not sort of predisposed to like everything that ever happened up until the present moment, right? So you don't have to. You have to find the things that you do like and dig in. That's your job. Find the things that you really, really are excited about and dig in. Those are going to be what you bring to the classroom to model a certain kind of enthusiasm and engagement with a content that you can then help others develop in a rich way. And then I also wanted to say one more thing, and then and anybody wants to wrap up, was first of all, keep everything, watch your faculty, but also a lot of you all are developing sort of who you are and who you are in the world. And that's going to continue to change a lot over the next 5 years, 10 years, 50 years. So be wary, and I get this a lot from students, be wary of saying, I'm this kind of learner, or I'm interested in this kind of thing, or this is who I am. Yes, of course, it's who you are, but be aware that the light's going to go on in different ways. Like Mayela said with her revelation of different kinds of work, these things happen to us on the fly. They happen to us on the job. We realize, oh, I'm better teaching this way, actually, or I'm better bringing this kind of document, this kind of resource. Don't pigeonhole yourself, is what I want to say, especially at this stage in your life where so much is changing and you are empowering yourself, you are elevating yourself, you are rising within your respective fields, you are getting more powerful and more excited about things, so that you'll be in a situation where you can make certain kind of determinations about what it is that you want to do, how you want to teach, how you want to learn, as you become more powerful within these different contexts. So don't put yourself into a box of a certain kind of historian or a certain kind of learning or a certain kind of teaching, because you're going to continue to strengthen yourself and learn different avenues, different ways of approaching content in yourselves. Now I've been rambling for a little while. So Andrew and then Herb, please jump in.
Yes. Hello, guys. My name is Andrew Hunter, and I am representing here today. By the way, guys, great presentations. I really liked all the speakers. Everybody did a great job. But also, I'm here to spread awareness to any undergraduate students or anybody, I guess, that'd be interested in helping or going to History Club. We have 2 branches. We have one at the main campus. And the president there, Xavier Resendez, and he's a great guy. And then I am actually at the Palm Desert campus. I'm the president there and Dr. Karp helps me with that. So he's the advisor there. So I highly encourage any student interested, or even maybe any faculty that might want to talk to this club or, do anything with us in collaboration. So thanks again for having me, and thanks for letting me speak, Dr. Murray. It's been a real honor. And thanks again. Yeah, it was a great job. A great time.
Thanks, Andrew, and thanks. I'm glad you weighed in about the History Club, because these are the superstars. History Club and also the National Honor Society Phi Alpha Theta, which is a bit of overlapping concentric circles, and you guys are a really important engine of enthusiasm for our entire department, including for us, Andrew, including for the faculty. You guys, whenever we see the History Club and the Phi Alpha Theta superstars on our class rosters, we think, yes, my job's going to be a little easier this term because I got those guys in there. So thank you, Andrew. Thanks for joining. Herb, please.
Just real quick, I wanted to jump off what you were saying about, like watching your instructors. I worked as an SI leader for Christina for, numerous semesters, and I learned a lot from her presentation. But what I got most was listening to her presentation when she told a story about the instructor that turned her onto history. Guy, crazy hair, is so into teaching that when the lights go out and the power goes out in the room, he just pulls a lighter out of his pocket so that he can still read his notes and keeps the freaking lecture going. And I'm not kidding. At that moment, that was the teacher I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to teach. I came back, but I didn't know what teacher I wanted to be. And after that story, I wanted to be the crazy guy with the hair that's going to pull out the lighter because he's so passionate. And I think people that have had me, it can at least pick up on that passion. I think, Megan had me, and, I get crazy. My hands go everywhere. But literally that one story kind of, cemented not only what I wanted to do, but how I wanted to do it. So you can learn so much from your instructors beyond just that content. Christina always presents herself super professionally, but she's also a super kind person. I mean, she just really taught me a lot about the softer skills and the more important stuff than just being able to spew, content at somebody. So like I said, if you find those teachers, make sure you learn from them, talk to them about everything you can. So anyway, thanks, Christina.
And I'll just amplify the SI, the supplemental instruction, and I'll share a link about that. I went over to Mount San Jacinto, must be 3 years ago now, for a sort of a mini conference, a symposium about SI work, because I help a little bit with that here. I help our guy, James Graham, recruit excellent students for SI work. So yeah, for our students and everybody else, that's a really sort of a paraprofessional kind of a opportunity for you to start getting your feet wet a little bit in that kind of an environment. Yeah, the SI is terrific. It's terrific for the students who are in the classes, but it's also really great for the SI leaders in terms of building that experience. So you guys should think about that, all you undergrads. And I think grad students can do SI as well. I think MA students can, pretty sure. Well, we're 7 minutes over. I want to welcome our guests to have any closing thoughts. I do think that we've begun, hopefully, what is an annual event or semester, each semester type of event, especially because we have our new MA program here at CSUSB that started 2 years ago. Our first crew is heading to graduation in June. I want to congratulate you guys. That's Brittany. I see Sarah, Andrew, Alexander in that group, and also the first years that include Megan, Matt, and Moises. So the long haulers, the ones who stuck with us through the hour and 8 minutes, our MA crew. It's an exciting program with a lot of really excellent students, and demystifying this process, I think, has been very, very valuable. Thank you so much, Jim, and thanks. We can wrap up in the next few moments, unless there are any parting thoughts, parting shots. All right. Well, we packed a lot in, and I think that we covered a lot of mechanics and a lot of the, like Herb says, a lot of the sort of softer side, that the encounters with students. This was great, and thanks to Brittany for starting the conversation, starting to make it happen, connecting us with our excellent colleagues at San Jacinto and at College of the Desert. Thanks, Michael, also, and Michelle, who had to leave, and Jim, but Christina, Mayela, Oceana, Michael, Herb, Brittany, and thanks to all of our students for joining us. These events are always the future history teacher events are, and now this is a new type of event that I hope to revisit. It's such a delight to be able to share this kind of wisdom with our students. I'm very, very grateful for you guys all for making the time to join us, and I do hope that we can do this again. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.
Thanks so much.
Thanks, everyone.
Hi, Megan.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone.